Everyone's trying to be comfortable, or so they say. And I know there's a lot of videos on this topic, but it looks to me that most people have no idea what comfort actually is, and the way they go about pursuing it guarantees they will never find it. What do we mean when we say comfort? When you think of comfort, a feeling occurs to you, and that feeling is, you kind of describe it as like a feeling of general well-being, belonging, a capacity to respond to your situation, a confidence that your situation is known and will persist. What we're sold instead, though, is this notion that comfort is really this life of frictionless ease, having all your pleasures stimulated at once forever. But people who actually try to live that way are irritable, unfulfilled, and always wanting to be someone else. It's actually like one of the least comfortable ways to live. We know this and see it all the time. A cultural machinery that keeps us in this state of permanently wanting. And it's a really ingenious maneuver because you might look at someone on this in this endlessly hedonistic lifestyle and you sort of envy the rich person's yacht, and then you hate yourself for envying it, and someone has something to sell you at each level of that. It's a manufactured dissatisfaction that is very largely the driver of our economy. What we now know is that actual comfort is achieved through periodic short-term immersions in discomfort. So only having my own personal experience to draw on, I can share this, that I take cold showers every day. I have done this for many, many years now. When I first decided to do this, of course, it's a very difficult thing to do, and there's a very unpleasant adjustment period to it. And I'm not advocating that everyone needs to do this. This, for me, was what drew me. This notion of the cold shower I found intriguing. And I'd argue that if the idea of a cold shower to you sounds like every level of hell combined, then I'd say ignore it then. There's no lack of healthy things you can do for yourself instead of that might suit your personality better and benefit you in exactly the same way. The idea of the cold shower inherently intrigued me. It's got its hooks in my head, and I was so obsessed with making them a part of my life that for every single day, every single morning, for months and months, I set my alarm, and the first thing I did when that alarm went off is I rolled right out of bed and just zombied my way to the bathroom and no time to talk, no time to think, don't stop for a glass of water, don't stop for a coffee, straight into the cold shower, no matter what, for months on end. And I wasn't always consistent. I fell off, and then I'd have to start over again. Initially, just having my shin hit the water, the shock breathing started immediately, and I couldn't even, and I'd just have to, lunge in and out and be done. But once I could stand in there for 5 seconds, I knew I was making progress, and I just kept that up until I could hit 10 seconds. And then I think at that point I might have started timing myself until I could hit 15, and I'd stay on 10, 15 seconds for a long time. And then I'd hit 20, and then once I hit 20, can you hit 30? And I just built this up. And once you've hit 2 minutes of standing in there, you can pretty much stay in indefinitely. You've sort of created a working relationship with it, and I still do them to this day. I can step right in now, but the resistance is still there. I still have to kind of just push myself through that final plunge, even though I know it'll be relieving as soon as I touch it, it's like a relief. At some point, you give yourself permission to stop hating it. Midway 3/4 of the way through this practice, when I was still kind of adjusting, the bookstore I worked at the time, it was a very small, cramped bookstore, but it was extremely busy. It was dinner rush restaurant busy. Nobody who worked there knew why. There were other bookstores around, none of them were even close to as busy as this, just for some reason. The store was upstairs, we had a huge basement, which is where the break room and all the other stores, so we're constantly going up and down stairs carrying heavy boxes, and then one day, in the middle of summer, our AC breaks. So inside, it is hot and humid and cramped, and outside, it is hot and humid and spacious. It doesn't feel much difference, in other words. But then one day, I came to work, and I started working, and then I realized that I looked around, and instead of everyone complaining about how hot it was, everyone was complaining about how cold it was and was wearing sweaters. And then it hit me that the AC had been fixed, but I hadn't noticed. And that's what really sank in, was that these cold showers were not like this sadistic thing I did to torture myself. It's not because I'm training to live in the Arctic with nothing but a pair of shorts. This very short immersion into cold made me more comfortable in a far wider range of temperatures. And that's the real key. That's what people are really looking for when they talk about comfort. They talk about range. They want to be at ease in a wide variety of situations, even stressful and chaotic ones. I wasn't doing these cold showers to torture myself. I did them because I like being comfortable. The important thing is to keep going with this a little bit at a time. We live in a very relatively, I know the news would have you believe otherwise, but we live in a pretty stable and safe society. A benefit of that is that the discomfort you put yourself through isn't actually that dangerous for you. An occasional intermittent fast or a cold shower. It's not something being forced upon you by despotic circumstances, but it can help you grow in the same way you would under those circumstances. It occurred to me that this almost violates the laws of physics. Like, you get out more than you put in. This tiny little section of my day has this lifelong, far, wide-ranging benefits. So there's the physical discomfort, and then there's the mental discomfort. And this is actually a lot harder for most people. There's a reason we start with the cold showers and early morning workouts and stuff, because you do those kind of largely alone. There's a sort of status that goes along with doing that. Forcing yourself to be in a place where you're mentally and emotionally uncomfortable is purposefully lowering your status to get used to that. And that is much harder for people in a society as sort of safe and nurturing as ours. Doing things where you might be judged, fail publicly, or be very honest about something in a way that makes you vulnerable or open to attack. A few months ago, I started training jiu-jitsu. I was not athletic growing up. I was not a martial artist. I have never wanted to fight anyone in my entire life. I'm very conflict avoidant most of the time. Maybe you can tell by the shirt. I heard so many good things about jiu-jitsu that it gives you a community, you feel confident, so I decided to do that, and it was, of course, very nerve-wracking. It's a completely alien environment to me, but I've been doing it for about 4 months now, and I really enjoy it. So that led to wondering what else I could do. Part of being conflict avoidant is I avoided all social media. I was so embarrassed by some of my behavior on there, and my often response to embarrassment is to disappear. So this channel is another extension of my practice in trying to make myself do things that are uncomfortable. I had faceless channels for a while on YouTube, and that was very fun to build. But as I'm trying to build a creative life by drawing attention to comics and things I write, I have to be out there. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to risk feeling stupid. You don't actually look stupid. You just feel stupid. You just have to be honest, sloppy, and present. If someone ever tells you that they like being comfortable, that sounds like a challenge. Do you really like being comfortable? Prove it.